in a game that has huge ramifications in the AFC wild card with the Raiders going up against the Colts. Who do you think comes out on top and why?
So I'm gonna sound biased. I'm gonna say us, and us being the Colts. I think that we are trending in the right direction as a unit. Special teams is clicking, defense is swarming together. The offense showed even without the offensive line, we have enough depth and enough camaraderie as a team, as a unit to beat anybody. Granted, Arizona kind of shot themselves in the foot last week, but we were able to capitalize, put some points on the board. Carson Wentz had one of his best games of the season. Obviously, his status is still in question with the new CDC and NFL protocols. It looks like he will become available after 5 days of testing positive to play. But obviously, if he has like a fever and some big symptoms, I would assume they're not going to put a sick and down and battered Carson Wentz as opposed to a healthy Sam Ellinger who has been getting first team reps this week in practice. So quarterback wise, we're kind of like in limbo right now. But everybody else is back. Quentin Nelson's back. Kari Willis, Darius Leonard. Um, I think Eric Fisher is going to be the only one that doesn't play. But again, our offensive line has such depth, as it was shown last week, that I think we will be okay. Eric Fisher, if I had to put it bluntly, is probably the weakest link on that offensive line, which is boding to show that was a waste of $9 million. That's another conversation for another day. Getting back on track, the Colts should win this game solely because of the name Jonathan Taylor. The MVP candidate has had a phenomenal season. Obviously, 9 or 10 straight games with 100 yards rushing. Over 1,600 total yards this year in terms of, excuse me, over 1,600 yards rushing this year, 17 touchdowns. He's having a phenomenal MVP kind of caliber season. We run the football, we win the game. Obviously, if Sam is in the game and not Carson, you definitely don't put a rookie quarterback in there and drop him back, throw it 30, 35 times. Vegas is trying to find themselves. Vegas is a weak team that needs to beat a team like us to kind of catapult themselves into the playoff discussion. It would suck for us to fall when we just beat two teams that I did not expect us to beat in the manner that we did. So I believe we should win this game by about 7 points. And I'm only saying 7 and not 10 because I feel like this game can end up being close. I mean, for God's sakes, they held Denver to 14 points, but Denver was without Teddy Bridgewater. So it seems like a similar thing. Starting quarterbacks, they're playing back-to-back weeks. They're playing backup QBs. So it could be one of those situations where they stack the box to make Sam beat them. So I don't know what Frank's going to have dialed up, but getting Darius Leonard back, getting Carr Willis back is going to be huge. So I think that this defense is going to be relied on heavily. Rushing the quarterback, getting to Derek is going to be big. And we're going to have to find a way to cap Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow has been having one hell of a year. I believe he is, I think, a couple receptions shy of 100 receptions for the season. I think the last wide receiver to do that was like Jerry Rice or Tim Brown or something like that back in the day. So it probably was Tim Brown, actually. So the point I'm trying to make is I think we win this game, but I think that Carson playing and Carson not is going to be pivotal. So we will see what happens, but I like the Colts by 7 here.
Yeah, this is a game where I'm looking at the matchup. I mean, it's absolutely pivotal for both teams, but I got to favor the Colts here. And it's simply just because when I look at the Raiders, the last 4 games, they have scored 15, 9, 14, and 17 points in those respective games in each of them. That's not going to get it done. And you're going up against a team in the Indianapolis Colts that seem to be surging at the best possible time. They had a great win over the New England Patriots just a couple weeks ago, and then they capped it off last week with another impressive win against one of the best teams in the NFC in the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm favoring Indianapolis to win this one, and I'm picking them to actually win by a substantial margin, even though that they do have that Carson Wentz question as far as his availability goes going into this game. This game plan for Indianapolis should be very simple. Give Jonathan Taylor the ball 30 times in this game. Let him run for 150 to 200 yards in this game. This is a game that, as far as I'm concerned, this game plan is pretty much open and shut. Because if they're able to own the line of scrimmage as far as the Colts offensive line goes, Jonathan Taylor is going to have a huge day. And I don't know if the Raiders defense necessarily has the pieces to be able to stop him on a consistent basis. They may slow him down a couple plays here and there. But Jonathan Taylor has shown consistently throughout the entirety of the season that when given good opportunities to run the football, he has made the most of those opportunities and he has burned teams as far as opposing defenses go on a consistent basis. Kevin, I'm in full agreement with you. He's at the top of the MVP discussion with the season that he's had. The guy's been an absolute beast. I expect nothing else more in this game. This guy is probably going to get at least 100 to 150 yards rushing. And defensively, I think that they have the pieces to slow down that Raiders offense just because, I mean, Hunter Renfrow has been a huge piece for that Raiders offense, but I don't know if he's going to be what he's been necessarily the last couple of weeks in this matchup against the Indianapolis defense. I think that Indianapolis as a whole, they are surging at a very good time, and I think it just continues this week. Now, granted, we'll see what happens as far as the quarterback availability. The quarterback availability goes. Excuse me, but I think the Colts win this one by a relatively comfortable margin. I'm going to say they win this one by about 10 points. So I'm going to say Indianapolis wins this one by the score of 27-17. I just don't really see a scenario where the Raiders really crack 20 points or more in this game just because offensively they have really struggled to get any sort of consistency the last month or so. And I think it continues in this game. I think Indianapolis forces some turnovers, and I think the Colts offense will be able to capitalize on that, and that'll give them a pretty comfortable win, winning by the score of 27-17. That's kind of how I see it in this Week 17 matchup.